Okay, guys and gals, about 10 seconds of the obligatory disclaimer. If you want to read the whole thing, just pause the video. Welcome, everybody. Let's take a look at the S&P 500 futures. I'll talk a little bit about the last few days or last week or whatever, and then I'll talk about where I think the market's heading, and I'm going to introduce something brand new. I've been working on this for a while, and I'll show you a new algorithm that I have that I'm still working on how I'm going to integrate it with the rest of the data and the videos, but I'll show it to you, and it is remarkable on its accuracy. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I think it's going to make a huge difference on being more certain. In fact, I call it the certainty rate, okay, about when to place trades. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. So just looking at the S&P 500 right here on the daily chart, you can see the MACD crossed over pretty hard. So that happened back here on, let's see, the crossover officially probably really happened about right here on May 25th, let's say, somewhere right about there. And from that point on, it was what, good 3, 4, 5 days of, on the average, nice green days. In the middle of this cycle here, you can see price just stalled on the right side of that middle line. So that's very, very common. I talk about that a lot. All right. Now, that's the MACD crossed over looking pretty strong. I do think we might see a little pullback here, or this could just be it. It could just decide to go sideways for these 4 days and then resume to go back up. We'll have to see what this is going to do as we come out of the middle of this cycle. There are some divergence warnings going on here, there and there, and that's usually a telling sign that the price is beginning to, the price action and upward momentum is beginning to fade. But you wouldn't know it by looking at the MACD. Okay, so going to keep a very close eye on these divergence, and we're going to throw in the certainty rate here in a little bit. That's going to give even more confirmation about when I think these divergence and the MACD and the cycle, it's all very synergistic, okay, and it's going to really work good together. You guys are really going to love that. But just looking at this for now, I see some divergence warning here on the Big Daddy, and you can tell divergence warnings don't happen very often on the Big Daddy, okay? The only reason I'm not saying that I know we're going to get a pullback is because the MACD is looking pretty healthy and it's below the zero line. So I'm a little cautious, but normally these divergence warnings, if they happen both on the Big Daddy and on the SMI, that usually means something's coming. Okay. So that's something definitely worth noting. On a really, kind of big picture and very long term and what's going on trend-wise, this really hasn't changed, right? This is still going down. Right? We're still in this huge downward channel or descending, slightly widening wedge, okay? Or you can call it descending, widening channel if you want to. So, we've obviously got that going on, then that. And so I'm just preemptively saying we might see this. Now, I don't know if we'll get up to this 4,400 or not. That seems like a big ask, but I mean, it could happen, but you'd be surprised. Sometimes price action does strange things and does what people don't expect. So I don't know if we'll get all the way up to there or not, up to this 4,400 area right here. Okay, it could. But even if it does get this aggressive and come up here, I just don't. That's going to be about as good as it gets. It might get a little above it, maximum, and then it's going to be bombs away. And I'll be surprised if it even gets that high. But like I said, it could. But for right now, short term, that's kind of the long term view here is that we're still just heading down. And truth be told, we're kind of in the early stages of this going up. Now this daily cycle right here, which is, for those not familiar with daily cycles, wherever you see these two yellow arcs come together, that's typically where I'm putting that X and an X and an X. That's typically where we would see price decline, okay? And it's, sure enough, price decline, right? Price decline. Price decline. Now, I talked about this last week, and I'll say it again here. I'm not 100% sure that this cycle is still valid. I'm going to wait to see. Because there's a low point right here. So I'll have to wait to see if it has this cycle behavior changed. And it may have very well changed, but I'm not fully convinced of that yet. So I'm going to wait to see and be a little more patient here. So for now, that cycle's still over here. I still have it ending on about June 22nd, okay? Approximately. Another one, I still haven't changed it, 8/10, August 10th, and September 29th. Okay, so we're going to wait to see how this plays out to see, did we get a cycle behavior change? All right. Okay, now I'm going to switch over and bring in the certainty rate data. So hang on one second because it's going to take me a second to bring it up. Okay, so now you see on the screen this app. This is a desktop app that I wrote. Okay, I'm a software developer and I do a lot of software development in Microsoft technologies, C#, VB, a lot of web development, desktop development. I won't even go into it, but anyway, and this is something I did in my spare time here for you guys, okay? For my members, yes, but also for the general public. Occasionally I might share this data, but basically this is going to be mostly for members. Okay, but I'm sharing it publicly with everybody. So for those that want to see what's going on in my domain, my world, and what's, how am I improving my ability to trade? How am I improving the service to the members? Okay. So up here in the left-hand corner on this desktop app, it's kind of small, but it says certainty rate. That's just the name I gave it. Okay. So by default, it's going to put the current year in here. Okay, we can change it to whatever year we want historically. Obviously, you can go back to 2021 and previous years, but so we're going to leave it at 2022. Now, it gets data from an external source. And I'm not going to say what that external source is right now, but I will say this much. This, as I get ready to click this button, it's going to go get the data, which I'll do now, see what it does. Okay, just a little message box here that says it's done. Okay, nothing fancy about this app far as UI and looking fancy. This is just meat and potatoes stuff that I did just to get it working, okay? So we know it finished getting the data, okay? But just want to touch on a second about the nature of this data. This data that's being retrieved has nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing to do with the stock market. 100% serious. It has nothing to do with derivatives, meaning commodities or futures. It has nothing to do with forex, or what we call currency, okay, or altcoins or bitcoins or cryptocurrency. What I want to say, it doesn't mean to do that. People will be, maybe one day in the future I'll talk about what this data is, but I'm not going to do that here, okay? But maybe one day in the future when I'm an old man, I'll talk about what is this actually doing. And I'm telling you right now, it would shock the world if they knew what this data actually was and how unrelated it is to anything financial in the stock market or anything else. Absolutely would shock the world. Okay, so we went and got the data for this year, which would be from January 1 all the way up to today, which is, I think, June 4th, if I remember right. Okay, so by default, I have this rate here called 8. It can be changed. But generally speaking, just to kind of give everybody an understanding of this, particularly the members as you watch this video, because you're going to be the ones that benefit the most from this, on a week-to-week basis, even daily basis for that matter, because this is a daily thing. Okay, I know I put videos out right now only weekly, but I'm trying to figure out a way to publish updates to the members daily, okay? So by default, this has a rate of 8, and all that. The lower the number, the more frequent we're going to see data, but the more diluted the data would become, and it might become meaningless, or all practically meaningless. The higher the number, then the better hits we're going to get, and I'll talk about what I mean by that, or the better the certainty, the better the rate, the certainty rate. Okay, the more reliable that certainty rate is going to be. So, just from me looking at the data and messing around a little bit with a very basic algorithm, 8 seems to be a pretty good number. But from time to time, I might make it 10. I might even make it 12 or 15 and really narrow it up. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and say get certainty rate. Okay, it's really just getting data and using this as a filter. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay, now this data, when I get data, what does it do? It goes out and gets the data externally and brings it in, and I store it in my local database. Okay, so all we're doing here when we click this button is we're querying my local database. This gets the data from an external source, loads it into my local database. This button does the operational aspect with the data. Okay, manipulates, massages the data, uses it to come up with this grid that you're seeing here. Now, since we picked the year 2022, we're getting only 2022 data. Okay, so you'll see a date here. We'll start from the top. Okay, you see a date here, January 6th, and you have this rate, 1330. So remember I said the higher the number, and it could be positive or negative because these are absolute values. This entire column, you'll see some negative numbers in there occasionally, like that one. Okay. And there's one here recently from May 25th. There's a negative number there. Okay. So it doesn't really matter. We're just, this absolute value. I'm presenting both positive and negatives, but really this value is negative or positive is all we're really concerned about, as long as it's above 8. So if it's negative 8 or less, I guess is the way to look at it, or positive 8 or greater, you're going to see it on this grid. Okay. So getting back to January 6th, we see a rate here of 1330. That's pretty decent rate. Okay, it's above 8 for sure. So what does that really all mean? So now we're going to get into this. Let's talk about what it means. So January 6th, this over here is the TOS platform. Okay. And we want to look at January 6th. Is there anything significant about January 6th or in proximity to January 6th? Well, here's January 5th. Is that significant for you enough? It was literally the day after the all-time high. And here's the 6 right there. So what this 13.3, all it's really saying is that it's a good idea to take a look at January 6th because there's a degree of certainty here that's worth looking at. That's all this really means. Okay, anything above 8 for now is saying go take a look at this date. There's something happening near this date, and sure enough, there was. The day before, on January 5th, was really the beginning of a huge downtrend. It even picked the next day, January 7th. Right there. And then it picked January 15th. Where's that at? Right there, guys. Well, it was a weekend. Remember, I told you this data's got nothing to do with the stock market. This data just keeps on chucking. Every day, nonstop. So January 15th is not going to show on here because it's probably a weekend. Could be a holiday, but it's probably a weekend. But nevertheless, here's the 14th, and the next day was the 18th. So obviously over a weekend, right? So it picked exactly on the 15th and the 18th too. Look at this, 35.3, huge number. Well, look at the 18th. So you see all these dates right here in January. The 6th, which was basically the day right after this huge all-time high, significant area right here, right? Then we get the 15th and the 18th. Okay. 14 and 18. So everything right here, this logic is saying, man, there's a lot going on right here. Something significant's going to happen. And sure enough, Yeah, I mean, even you could have shorted right here. Take your pick in here, shorting, and why? Because we can see. Look at the MACD. Now, remember I talked about earlier in the video, synergistic, how the data is going to work synergistically, all working together. Well, look at the MACD. It's already crossing over. We had divergence warnings going on with the Big Daddy. We had divergence warnings going on with the SMI. Okay. This data right here is absolutely mind-boggling, guys and gals. Mind-boggling. It blows my mind. It just the fact that these states come up and they're absolutely hitting on all cylinders right here, telling you that something's about to happen. And all we need to know with this certainty rate is that it's telling us something's likely to happen. Now I can just hear the bells and whistles going off in everybody's head. Well, what is going to happen? This tells us the likelihood of something's going to happen. The other indicators tell us what direction it's going to happen in, or the magnitude of it. You follow me? So this doesn't give us direction, but it gives us a certainty that something most significantly is going to happen. Now I've looked through this data pretty carefully, and it's very highly accurate. I mean, it's scary how accurate it is. Okay. We're talking. I haven't gone through and looked at the percentage of accuracy, but it's very high. I'll be surprised if it's below 80%. It's probably higher than that. It's probably like 90, 95% of the time. So sure enough, if you look at these certainty rates, pay attention. There's certainly something's about to happen. Okay, I might give this a different name, whatever. It's the best I can come up with right now. Okay. So I'll look at this, share it with the members, because you can tell this. Look here. Let me get a different color. You can tell it isn't every day of the week, right? It's January 6th, 7th, and it jumps to the 15th. So this isn't just willy-nilly every day we're going to get a number, because remember we're only looking for numbers where the rate's above 8 or 8 or higher, I should say. Because we don't want to be getting stuff like just junk. We don't want to be getting junk, right? We want to be getting something that tells us something of value, that we can actually use it. So it's pretty clear to me that 15, 18, even the 6th and the 7th, but particularly the 15th and the 18th were just huge beginning of trends, downward trend. So I'm going to be using this data with giving it to the members, and letting you know on a daily basis because it won't always happen, right? Remember, it's not always going to happen. But if it does happen, okay, then you'll know about it because I'm going to let the members know, okay? And then we'll look at the rest of the indicators to help us determine, is there a certain direction? Okay, so let's take a look now at, let's take a look at some other data here. Obviously, January 18th was huge. This monster, absolute monster. Beginning of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days in a row of just massive decline. I mean, that was huge money-making opportunity. Okay, so now I'm gonna look at the chart here and just pick out some dates. Okay, like 2/8 through like 2/11. Is there anything in there at all? I don't see anything here, okay? But it's got a 215. Let's look at 215. What does that mean? Well, here's 215 right here. So we picked up something saying, pay attention to that. Now this barely above 8, but it did pick it up, and sure enough, you had 1, 2, 3, 4 days down. Let me go back to the 28th, especially the 29th, which is a pretty big rate. Where are those numbers? Here's 28th. Look at that, guys. Guys and gals, look at that. It's right on that date right there. Let me get a better color. Right on this date. Right there. Isn't that crazy? Literally telling us the beginning of an uptrend. That's just freaky. Absolutely freaky. Just nailed it. You know, pick this day right here, and you get in, and you get at least 2 more days of serious money making. Oh my gosh, that's just crazy. The 15th and the 16th. Let me check a look. I think they're right here. Yeah. Look at that. Wow. Right here, 15th and 16th. The MACD's sitting there getting ready to cross over, just kind of sitting there going sideways. And sure enough, what do you get? Get these 4 huge down days. Wow. There they are right there. 15 and 16. Crazy. Let's look at the second. Pretty decent number. March 2nd. Is there anything significant about March 2nd? Here's March 2nd right here. Again, it actually picks a date that's, you know, we would know this at the end of March 2nd, so you could literally, the next day, it started 1, 2, 3, 4 days down. Look at that. Wow. So March 2nd, it says something's going to happen, and it hits this right here, this downtrend. 4 days, huge down. That's freaky. What about March 10th? Anything going on there? Here's March 10th right here. Let me spread this. Let me spread the. Spread this out a little bit. Okay. So March 10th is right there. That candlestick. And then also, if you look over at the back over at the app here, it also picked March 11th. Okay, so it picked this little cluster of candlesticks right here. And why? Because it says something's about to happen. Sure enough, about 2 days later, we had this massive, absolutely massive upward trend that lasted 2 weeks. Now think about it right here. There's nothing here that tells you can get that we're going to be having any significant kind of trading. It's just chopping sideways. But this comes and tells us, pay attention, something's about to happen. And every one of these indicators, even the SMI, doesn't really pick up on it until it actually happens, right? And this picked it up 2, 3 days early. See, guys and gals, that's that right there. That's what that's predictive in nature, and that's what got my attention about all this. Getting this data and working with this data was how predictive in nature it was. Just like the divergence logic predicts declines, we now have this data that's helping us predict both long and short opportunities. Okay, I'll do one more here, like on the 22nd, then we'll finish up the video with where we're at right now. Let's look at March 22nd. Anything going on with March 22nd? Yeah, look at this, guys. It picked this little stall. Look at this. It picked this little area right here where these prices stalled. And then it did the 23rd over here, the 24th, the 27th. It started laying it on thick. Look at this. Look at all this over here. From the 23rd, 4, 7, 8, 31st, it just starts freaking out. Right? Look at that. From like the 22nd all the way through the 31st, it's like freaking out, telling us, watch out, pay attention. Oh my gosh, just look at that. There's like, 3 days in a row. Maybe that was a weekend that it skipped. Was it 24? Yeah, 24, then 27, or 25, sorry, then 28. So that was, the 27th obviously was a Sunday, right there. And then the 28th is huge. And look at the 31st, 90. I don't know if I've ever seen a number that big before, 90. Let's look at the 31st. So anyway, what I'm really saying here is that the app is using this data and saying there's something significant going on here in the last, week and a half of March, the third and fourth week of March, that, really pay attention. Now, let me ask you all something. Okay, So the 22nd was like right here. Okay. Right here. If this thing is like screaming for like a whole week and a half, and you see this going on, what do you think that means? It means get ready for something. If this thing's saying get ready, then I'm inclined to think that this is going to change and do something else, meaning that way. And sure enough, just look at this huge drop that just went on for like, what, more than a month? An entire month of decline. We're talking tens of millions, billions of dollars being made here. Just crazy. And this thing knew it was coming. You know, guys and gals, the reason I'm talking like this is because, you know, yeah, I put together the program, but I didn't create this data, okay? I'm just using the data, okay? You hear what I'm saying to you? I'm just taking the data and use it in such a way that it revealed something. And that's what still, even as I do this video, absolutely blows my mind. It just blows my mind. I mean, you all can see it for yourself, right? These dates are popping up. And look at the numbers just keep, in this case, the numbers just kept getting bigger. Wow. Just wow. Okay, let's scroll to the bottom here. I'll pick out a couple more dates here, and we'll talk about. Now you saw earlier in the video. I know the video's getting kind of long, but I had already got data, and there's no new data. There is new data, but none of it qualifies as having a rate above 8. Okay, recently. The last one was the 25th. We can just jump to that one. Let's see if we can find the 25th. There's a 25th right there. That's a little green candlestick. This one. Let me get yellow here. This candlestick right there. That's the one it did. And why would it do it? Well, it looks pretty obvious to me. It's telling us something's coming. Sure enough, the MACD crosses over. And the 25th was, where was it? Right here? Look at it. Just right as the MACD is about to cross over, this comes up and tells us something's going on. Is that amazing or what? And again, as I said earlier, it's not looking at any of this data. It doesn't look at stock market data, nothing. It's uncanny. Uncanny. Sure enough, it predicted that something was going to happen. In this case, that's what I'm saying. What we're going to do is, as we look at this certainty rate and it tells us, hey, pay attention, something's coming, we're just going to come look at the other indicators. And I think, guys and gals, you know, there's going to be a high degree of certainty that if it's in an area like this, we know it's going to cross over and go up. You follow what I mean? Or if it's in an area like this, it's going to cross over and go down. Even when it was over here chucking sideways, we had certainty rating tell us something's going to happen in this area. Well, even though the MACD wasn't showing it, the Big Daddy was starting to already kind of show that something going up, right? It was already kind of going like right in here. The Big Daddy's a little bit ahead, just a little bit ahead of the MACD. So I love that Big Daddy. It's a forecaster in of its own right. But, you know, just in this kind of congested sideways area that we looked at here with this pricing, and none of these other indicators are really giving us something to really go on, this told us, yeah, there's something there. So really cool, right? Okay, so let me finish up the video. What about the 25th? Well, we looked at the 25th, which is right there, and it certainly nailed the beginning of a trend. Okay, so today is, I think, June 4th, and I already pulled the data. Okay, I'll pull it again tomorrow, and if I see something, I'll put it in the Discord server. That's why I encourage all my members, if you're a member of my channel, paying member of the channel, you want to get on the Discord server, just keep your Discord server up and running. I mean, the Discord app. The server's on all the time. I never shut it down. I always leave Discord up. Okay, so I'll make a note here to run this app and pull the data for tomorrow. I can do it at any time. I can pull it right now if I want to. It doesn't matter. It pulls the data really quick. Okay, if I click get data, it's gonna look how fast it came back. Okay. It goes out to the internet, gets its data, brings it in. if I click get certainty rate, it's just going to do the same thing it's doing now. Okay, I don't know if we'll get double data here because maybe I didn't clear the grid. Okay, no, it's doing it right. Just rebinds the data and puts it back on there. Okay, now, so to me, guys, this is going to be a huge tool, and I know I talked about this before, but I really want to try to get a website up to where I can just push notifications out to the website, and then members can just go to the website, and you can monitor the data that's being pushed out to there. Okay, I'll still do YouTube videos, but so that's stuff that I'm still trying to figure out how to do, because believe it or not, it's very difficult to find website hosts that are going to host a lot of videos. They just don't do it, right? They just won't do it. You can host like 3 or 4 videos. That's all the memory they're going to give you on their hard drives, because they just say, oh, YouTube handles all that. But YouTube is horrible. And I don't even like putting my content on YouTube, but So I'm going to finish up with this. If I were to make this more restrictive, let's say we were to make this like a 15, okay, and we see how the data set got much smaller. Now it's just, so if you go look at these dates, these would probably be fairly significant dates because they have big numbers. But as I said before, just from my observation, I feel like 8's a pretty good number. It tends to give us some pretty good data. As you start getting below 8, like if you do 5 or something, you're just going to get a bunch of data, and some of it's going to be meaningless, and it's all just going to kind of blend together, and then, it starts losing its meaning, okay? So 8 seems like a pretty good crossover. It may not quite pick up everything every time, but that's okay. That's okay. We want to be picking up. As I went through these dates, you could see that every single time I picked a date out of here, it nailed something. I think there was like maybe 1 or 2 at maximum dates out of like 100 that I looked at that weren't significant. Like they just didn't provide any value. And I'll take I don't know about you guys, but I'll take that anytime. 98 times out of 100, I'll take that. In any school I've ever been in, that's an A+. All right, so there we go, guys. I'm introducing this here, talking about the certainty rate. I don't have a way to take data, external data, and implement it into the TOS platform's charts. I wish I could, because then I would take this certainty rate and I would make it I would just make it another indicator on here. But I don't think there's a way to do that. So that's something else. I've been tinkering around with some other charts, but they don't have nearly the plethora of features that you see here on the TOS platform. So something to think about. But I'm going to pull data tomorrow. I'll let everybody know on the Discord server. So like I said, for the members, pay attention to the Discord server. Make sure you're on it. I'll either post it in the member chat, or I'll most likely post it in the S&P 500 thread. There's a member thread and there's a S&P 500 thread. I'll most likely post my findings in the S&P 500 thread, because this data is being used against the S&P 500. Okay. Though I haven't actually looked at other stock indexes. I'm sure it's applicable to the NASDAQ. It's probably as much as it is to the S&P 500. Okay, long video, but I wanted to share that with everybody. If you haven't become a member, below the video, there is, I think it's called join button. Click the join button. If you're on a mobile device or something else, you may not see it, so you might have to get on a laptop or whatever. I've had a few people click the button. They said, it just, for some reason, they still can't join. Make sure you don't have pop-ups blocked, because I think what's happening is when you click the join button, it brings up a pop-up. Okay, if your browser is blocking pop-ups, then you probably won't get it. So make sure you just allow pop-ups in your browser. You can Google that. Whatever browser you're using, just Google it and say better DuckDuckGo, which is what I use. I don't like Google, but go to your favorite search engine and just say how to allow pop-ups. Okay, and then allow pop-ups, then click the join button, and then you'll probably get it. All right. And then you'll get all the cool stuff. You'll get all this you're seeing here in this video, and you'll get a link to the Discord server. If you can't get on the Discord server, just leave a comment in one of the videos, okay, from one of the member videos, okay, and I'll respond and make sure you get a link to get you into the Discord server, okay? If you're just a subscriber or somebody watching the video, no, you can't get on the Discord server for free, so forget about it. It ain't going to happen. You got to pay to get on, okay? All right, guys and gals, that's it for now. God bless all of you. Love one another. Forgive one another. Talk to you all real soon again next time.